let's waste no time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring up co-writer, director, and producer Gurinder Chadha and Mr. Aaron Phagura.
Are we going to sing?
Oh, I feel like this will probably end in us singing. I have a good feeling.
Got a wife and kids in Baltimore, Jack.
We're starting
I went
off
out
right.
for a ride, and I never went back.
This is no Q&A. It's just gonna be
I
a
don't know where it's going.
big group karaoke session.
I took a wrong turn and I just kept going.
We're not even going to do a Q&A at this point. It's just a karaoke.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a hungry heart. Everybody's got a hungry heart. If you keep singing, there's a video there. And I'm going to send it to Bruce. Hello, Texas.
All right, that's a perfect segue. Is this on? Can you guys hear me?
I don't think this is on. I was singing. I was just singing.
Oh, there we go. So.
Oh, now I'm even louder. No,
Yeah.
I'm not even on. Am I on? Yes.
So, on that musical note, there's no movie without this music. There's no movie without these songs. There's no movie without Bruce's signing off in a way. So, what was that process like of getting the rights to the songs and his involvement in the movie?
So what happened was Safraz and I have been friends for a long time, and he said, I'm going to write this memoir about Bruce. We were both very big Bruce fans, of course. We thought we'd be the only two Asians in the United Kingdom that were Bruce fans. That's how we bonded. And when he wrote the memoir, I read it. I said, I know how to turn this into a really good movie, but there's no movie without Bruce. Unless he gives us his support, we're not going to be able to afford these songs. And he was kind of disappointed, and we were like, okay, what do we do next? And then, as luck would have it, in 2010, Bruce came to London for the premiere of The Promise, and I was invited, and I took Safraz as my plus one. I ditched my husband for the night, and we both stood on the red carpet, on either side of the carpet, with our cameras, so that when Bruce walked past, we could both go, like that, and be in the same frame as him, as he was going past. So that kind of was our plan. We didn't really have another plan in terms of the movie. Safraz did. Safraz had a copy of his book with him to give to him. Anyway, as Bruce came round the corner, we got very, very excited, and we had our hands in our mouths, and we were like, oh my God, he's coming, and he's so handsome and gorgeous, and what a superstar. We were all like fans. And as he came round, a miracle happened. He turned, and because, as you now know, Safraz has seen him 150 times, Bruce recognizes this afro-haired guy in the front row of places like Pittsburgh and Madrid and London and New York, because he's seen him everywhere. So Bruce sees him, sort of nods, and walks over. And Safraz starts shaking. And he says, I read your book, man. It's really beautiful.
Wow.
And so he had a meltdown. I ran over. We were filming this, so we've got lovely footage of Bruce's chest during the whole thing, because the camera was sort of we were talking to him like this. And as Safraz sort of went, oh my God, how did you read it? What do you think? Like this. I was thinking, okay, this is it. I got to do the deal here. What am I going to do? I got to be a real pro. And he was standing right in front of me, and I had 30 seconds. And that was my pitch. I just said, Bruce, I'm Gurinder Chadha. I made Bend It Like Beckham. And someone told me that your kids really liked the movie. He said, yeah, I heard about that movie. And I said, we really want to make a film of the book, and we can't do it without your support. Please, will you help us? And I say I sounded like I didn't. I went, hi, I'm Gurinder Chadha. I'm a big fan. So please will you support us? It was a bit more like that.
Yeah.
So he sort of looked at us both and said, sounds good. Talk to John. And John Landau was behind him, his manager. Bruce walked on, and John said, well, what are you guys talking about? I told him. And then I exchanged numbers with one of his other managers, Tracy Nurse, and that's how the movie happened.
Wow, man, that's amazing. And has he seen it yet?
Yeah. So what happened was when we wrote the script. Saffron's and I and Paul, my husband, we co-wrote the script, and we knew, even though we got finance from the British Film Institute to write the script, we knew the only person we were writing the script for was Bruce. Right? No one else mattered, and I spent a lot of time, making the songs work, in terms of the narrative, and we, I wanted Bruce to like it, and so we sent it off to Bruce, and we had to get his permission, obviously, and then 2 weeks later, we got a message back from Tracy saying he's read the script. So we were like, oh my God, what does he think? Does he think of the characters, or does he think of the way we use the song? What does he think? And she said, well, he said, I'm all good with this. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And she said, it means he's all good with this. So I was like, what does that mean? Can I make the movie? What does that mean? And she said, yeah, he said, I'm all good with this. So I said, so I can have Born to Run and all the songs, and 19 songs, all the songs. And she said, he said, I'm all good with this. Go make your freaking movie. And that's exactly what we did. So we barely had 2 sentences from Bruce. We had, sounds good, talk to John, and I'm all good with this. And those are his 2 sentences. Then we made the movie, and at the other end, he didn't ask to see it. I wanted to show it to him. I felt very strongly that he should see my cut in case there was anything he wanted to change, anything he didn't like. I mean, Born to Run is his big anthem. And the pressure was really on me to sort of picturize his music for him, for his fans, and people who didn't like Bruce, those sad people who exist in the world.
Who are those people?
Who aren't fans of Bruce. But I knew there would be people who didn't care for his music. So I had to balance all those sequences and the movie so that it was a movie that stood and failed regardless of Bruce,
right.
Actually. And anyway, we came into the room. He was on Broadway at the time, so it was a Sunday afternoon. He came into the room. A few of the managers were there, and we all sat in the room, and I put the movie on, and he watched it like this, very intensely. He smiled at the Bruce gags. He liked the Bruce gags. He laughed at those. But he just watched it very intensely. And then at the end, I was like, great, thank God this is over now, because I've been sweating buckets. But at the end, there was silence. No one clapped. No one said anything, because obviously, it was all about Bruce. So it was silence. So that was the most horrifying thing for me at that moment. And then I walked to the front, because I had to turn the lights on and take the tape out and take it with me. I thought, shit, I'm going to have to walk out of here with the tape and go, well, thanks. And, anyway, I went to the front, turned the lights on, and I turned around, and Bruce got up, walked over to me, and he gave me a big kiss.
Wow.
Yeah. He put his arms around me, and he said, man, thank you for looking after me so beautifully.
Wow.
I love it. Don't change a thing, he said.
That's so much better than him watching it and being like, I'm all good with this. And just, yeah.
I got 3 sentences.
Yeah.
But then to be honest, after we sat down for an hour, and he really he talked about the movie in great detail.
Wow.
And he said, the kids are great. He said the kids are great. He actually, I don't mean this to sound in a big-headed way, but he said he was absolutely blown away by how I did Dancing in the Dark
Yeah.
and the moment that Jarvid really hears Bruce for the first time.
With the projection in the lyrics,
Yeah, he thought that was really powerful.
Wow.
He liked that it was political.
Yeah.
He liked that it had resonance for, what is going on
Yeah.
around the world. Yeah, there were a lot, he talked about it in great detail. He liked all the jokes against him. He thought the Billy Joel joke was very funny. They're friends.
Yeah.
But he liked all the other 80 songs in the film a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because he said that really gave him a context, and particularly the Tiffany song, because at that time Tiffany was riding really high, and he couldn't get a song in the charts, and he was like saying to John, "Remember that girl Tiffany? She had all the songs, all the charts. We couldn't even sell our music."
Yeah, well, she doesn't have a movie about her now, so.
Oh, and she didn't have a #1 album.
No, that's true, yeah.
In 12 countries. So he was very gracious, and, I was very happy that, that was the endorsement I needed.
Yeah, I mean, you got the boss's endorsement, so, yeah. Well, let's take it out to you guys. I'm sure you have some great questions. We're going to roam around with a microphone. So if you have a question, just go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll come to you with the microphone.
Before anyone asks this question, Aaron and Vivek had never really heard any Bruce Springsteen before they
Sorry.
But now
there's
you're
some Springsteen fans in here that are like, I hate this guy so much.
but now you're like #1 super fan, right?
Yeah, I listen to him now. But
Yeah.
I had to, though, because I couldn't, play this character and do him justice without knowing what these words really meant to him.
Yeah.
So I had to listen to a lot of his music.
I think that's what's great. I think we have these artists that almost the iconography of them becomes more than their music, and we start to hear them in commercials, and every once in a while we have to dust them off and remind ourselves why they became that and why they're so powerful. And I think that's what the movie does beautifully. Like it does that. Yeah.
And the lyrics are still very relevant now as well.
Absolutely.
So, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah. Right here.
Well, and don't feel bad, because the greatest part of this movie is you're going to introduce this music to a whole new generation of people. I think that's phenomenal. My question is, I'm a child of the MTV generation. I grew up watching, MTV when it first was, premiered, and saw the music videos, including music videos from the UK and all around the world. And there's so much of this movie that reminds me of the creativity of how, when you would watch those music videos, particularly the scene when you guys go dancing around town and whatnot, it felt very much like a 1980s music video. Was that something that was a conscious decision? Did you think a lot about how you wanted to present that visually?
Every single frame is a conscious decision in this movie. Every single frame, juggling the politics, like some quite nasty race politics in there, with joyfulness, with fun, with the parent's story, the father-son story, making the parent feel three-dimensional and human, and not sort of criminalizing him for not letting Jarvid follow his dream. Like, everything is definitely, managed. In terms of your question, sorry, what was your question again?
Kind of trying to capture the visual.
Oh, yes, the 80s. Absolutely, yes. It was 1987, and I wanted it to feel like a John Hughes movie. Totally John Hughes. John Hughes, but set in Luton. So I was going for that, because it's a film about America, and it's slightly nostalgic about America. And so definitely John Hughes, and that's why I did the dancing movement on the highway during Born to Run as a nod to Breakfast Club.
It's great. Yeah, let's see your microphone.
I thought it was on.
It is on. The light's on. Here, we'll trade.
1, 2.
It's more important that they hear you than me.
Is that better? Ah. Do you want me to do Hungry Heart again? No.
It is on.
It's very low. But that's okay. Mine's loud now.
I'll project. Next, where are we at?
Hello.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you for the most concise description of what Born in the USA is really about. And you had the Reagan-Thatcher thing there, which, as we know, Reagan had co-opted. How important was it for you to sort of finally explain to the world who plays Born in the USA as an anthem what it really means?
Well, it was very important because I know that was one thing that Bruce himself is quite particular about. You know, he doesn't let that song be used actually commercially by anyone anymore. So well, I say that, but I mean he's very careful about how it's used, and so that we became the mouthpiece of Bruce there to make the point about the song, because people do think it represents a sort of jingoism and a nationalism that he doesn't like, and it is, you know, like so much of his music and his songs, they're about ordinary people. They're about ordinary people who are struggling to make a life, and you know, and his songs are full of empathy for those people who are trying to get by, you know, and are working hard at keeping the country going, you know, and also people who've fallen on hard times, as we say, veterans and people who've been laid off. And so his heart is always with ordinary people who are struggling in some way. But what's so brilliant about him, he's also about the fact that, yeah, life is a struggle, but within it, find your promised land, find your moment, because it is there is beauty despite the struggle. And that's what we try to show in the film. So yes, we had the speech about Born in the USA, but more than that, what we wanted to show was here was a vision of America, Bruce's America, and the values that Bruce upholds as an ordinary kind of blue-collar guy from New Jersey. And those values are what appealed to this 16-year-old kid in Luton who saw his own parents in Bruce's values and hope for himself and to find his way out of his situation. So yeah, so we balanced out the speech about Born in the USA, I hope, with all the other stuff.
And two, I mean, feels sadly kind of relevant. The way that you kind of parallel the issues in the UK during that time with what we're going through in America here. It's just this full circle thing.
Well, what happened was about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, I finished making a big movie called Viceroy's House, which sadly didn't get seen very widely in America, but it was a big period piece set in India in 1947 about the division of India by the British. And it was quite a big film. And after it, I was like thinking, okay, what shall I do next? I want to do something good next. And I was worried about doing this film because it has similarities to Bend It Like Beckham. And I didn't want to repeat myself. And then Brexit happened in England. And what was very sad about that was that suddenly people felt that they could go onto buses and start shouting at elderly black women who'd been working in the National Health Service for like 50 years. People could just start yelling at them. And so it was a real breakdown in civil society. Yeah. That's what upset me. And somehow that xenophobia, that behavior was okay by some people. So I thought, right, what can I do about it? I always say, what can I do, you know? And I thought the best thing that I could do was make this movie. And so everything that I felt, all the pain and upset that I felt about what I was seeing in Britain at that time, I sort of put into the last couple of drafts of this script. Yeah. But I didn't know what was going to be happening in other parts of the world, right, you know, at the time. And of course, things happened here subsequently. And I think that's why the film, you know, that's why we're sitting here with a Warner Brothers release, you know, because when we played at Sundance in January, I didn't realize it was the first time I was seeing the film with an audience. It just happened to be an American audience, and as they watched the movie, before the movie, I was a little nervous because I was like, I mean, this is Luton, this is England, this is like, you know, small town England, and it's a bit depressing. Although obviously Bruce is there, the actual story. So I wasn't sure if people were going to warm to it in quite the way that I would have liked. But anyway, it started playing and people were laughing and people were getting very engaged and louder and louder. And then the scene in the passport office, you know, that happened when the guy says purpose of your visit. And I could see everyone getting really nervous. You know, oh my God, they were all like, oh, he's going to get thrown out, you know. And then, of course, when the guy says what he says, which actually happened in real life, that actually happened to Safraz. That's why we put it in, because I actually wanted to take it out, because I said no one is going to believe that scene. Everyone's going to think, you know, she's gone mad and it's too cheesy. Yeah. And I said, we can't. And then I thought, well, you know what? It did happen, so let's put it in. So I had this in and out. But I'm so glad I put it in, because at Sundance, I thought the roof was going to come off the theatre, you know, at that moment. And then I realised afterwards, I mean, we had a 10-minute standing ovation, and then we had a big bidding war with all these distributors, like, throwing millions of dollars our way for the movie, which is a dream for me, because I'm always going, please buy my movie, please buy my movie. So to be on the other side was, like, phenomenal. And I think as Carolyn, who bought the movie for New Line and Warner Brothers, she said, I don't need this movie. I want this movie. Wow. This is not an independent movie. This is a movie that everyone should see. Yeah. So that was her pitch, and that's what she's doing now. So we ended up making a feel-good film for America, I think, at just the right time when a lot of Americans need it.
We need it, yeah.
I guess I'm next. I've got the microphone.
There you go. You're next. Yeah, go for it.
No, thanks. Just like you said, it's a great feel-good movie. I mean, it was terrific. But my question is, where has it been seen? Have you previewed it in the New Jersey area? Because they're going to go nuts over it.
Yeah, we had a screening in New York. They went nuts. I had a screening, in is it Greenwich? Not Greenwich. Oh God, it's another place in New Jersey that begins with B. I've been all over the place, and that was lovely. Actually, there was a big standing ovation there again in New Jersey. What was great about that screening is that any time there was any reference to New Jersey, they all clapped. Didn't matter what was going on. It was like, oh, it's New Jersey. They all clapped. And when the waitress comes on, they all clapped. You know, the scenes in Asbury Park, they were all screaming and cheering. So we're definitely going to do well in New Jersey. I know that. But we had a screening. I've been on the press tour, and I was in Ireland. And I don't know if people know, but Bruce Springsteen is huge in Ireland and also in Scandinavia for some reason, and all over Europe. But in Ireland, that was lovely. You know, one of his best albums is Bruce Springsteen Live in Dublin. I don't know if you've heard that. I urge you to hear that. It's one of the best albums I've ever heard. And I love it because he's having such a good time on that album. So what was interesting about Ireland was a lot of people who saw the film cried a lot. They came out crying. And a lot of guys were like, oh, I'm a total mess. I'm a mess, you know. So very emotional there. Same with Scotland. And across England, too, people remembered those times and didn't want to go back to those times. So I think this isn't a movie for cynics. And I think that if people have a sort of cynical side, it might be a bit too much for them. But I think that, you know, the news, we're bombarded with news and we're bombarded with lots of negativity. So I see this movie as kind of balancing that out. And so what I'm seeing so far, even here in the States, we've had screenings in New York and LA and San Francisco. You know, those have been wonderful. In San Francisco, this young kid came out after. I mean, everyone loved it then. After this young guy who's 18 came up to me, and he wanted to talk to me, but he just started sobbing and couldn't get his words out. And he just said, "That's my story. You know, my mum and dad have thrown me out of the house because they don't agree with what I'm doing." And then he just started crying, and I was like, I didn't really know what to say, but like, you know, it's touching people, and that's the point. And if someone like me can't use my skills to go out and touch people and make people believe that there is a better way and there is hope, then I'm not doing my job. That's what I think.
Wow. Thank you. Let's go. You can just pass it back behind you. Right. Yeah. 2 seats behind you. Oh, they passed it. Okay. Pass it down.
So
It's
question,
okay. Don't feel bad about leaving, everybody. I know it's late, and I'm talking a lot. But please promise me you'll tell at least 10 people to go and see the film on August 16th.
and
Thank you.
You can't tell those 10 people. You have to tell 10 different people.
Yeah.
So my question's for the gentleman, and I'm sorry I missed your name, but
His name is Aaron,
Aaron.
and he's named after Elvis Aaron Presley.
well, bit of trivia. I went to an Elvis concert when I was in my mom's time. So,
Oh, his
anyway,
mom's a big fan. That's why she
so,
called him Aaron.
Yes, my question for you is, like, none of these actors do I recognize because it's probably a smaller independent film. Have you been in previous things, and how has this or will this change your life being in a film that hopefully is going to go really big?
Do you know what it was? I still am quite early on in my career and haven't done half of what I wanted. I started off on TV. I done Doctor Who, mainly British TV before, and when I got the audition by Gurinder, obviously coming from an Indian family, especially my mum, she was a diehard Gurinder fan, so she's like, "Go, you better get this," So I went into the so that's where it's just kind of started, picking up now. When I went into the room with her, I never thought in a million years I'd actually get the role, but I just kept getting called back, and I think it was about the 4th or 5th time she was like, it was all self-tapes, and then she's like, she wants to, Gurinder wants to meet you, and I'm like, what? Why can't you just give me the role? Like, I've already done loads of auditions. And then I went in, and then I done literally 2 scenes of dialogue. And then the 3rd scene, she's like, okay, Aaron, and she pulls out this speaker, bangs it on the table, and she's like, okay, we're going to do Born to Run start to finish. And I was like, oh, well, okay, we're actually going to do this. Obviously, it's the first time of me meeting her. And and the rest was history from there. And
I put Born to Run on just to see what he would do. That was the audition. That was the director saying, "I'm going to put this on. Show me what you're going to do to this song."
the first 20 seconds was so embarrassing. Like, I struggled, and then after a while, I kind of just forgot that she was even there and just went for it.
All right. Right here.
Me?
Yes, you.
I think, first of all, I haven't cried in a movie in a really long time. And this just so touched me. I think this movie is for Bruce fans, but it's also for anybody who's ever been touched by a song and you captured that moment so brilliantly. Can you talk about the casting process of the actor who plays Javed, and then building the relationship between?
Yes. So Vivek, sadly, he's not with us because he's just finishing a movie himself. So, but he's absolutely gutted that he's not here. But he's starting out too. I mean, he's still at drama school. He was still at drama school. He had a small role in a TV program that I had seen. But I wanted to meet him, and he came in, and there was something about him. He's a very private person. He's very different to Aaron in that he's quite inward looking, and and very spiritual. And both of them read very, very well, I have to say. And I liked them both for the parts. I mean, he read Javed scenes too. But there was something about Vivek that made me feel like he could write poetry. And there was something about Aaron that made me feel like if anyone said to him, you can't do this, that he would put his hands around their neck and throw them against the wall. And so that's why I said to him, I really want you in the movie, but I want you to play Roops. And with Vivek, he was going to carry the movie, and I knew that. And so I worked with him quite intensely. And I've done this before with new actors, obviously with Keira Knightley and Paminta Nagra and Aaron Taylor-Johnson, in fact, who was 16 when I first cast him. What I always look for is just a little bit of instinct, because they don't have the experience. But if they have instinct, then that excites me as a director, because that's what they have to call on. I can bring them the experience. So I was bringing Vivek the experience, but I needed him, to carry his instinct. And initially, it was tough for him because, you need a lot of stamina and you need a lot of self-control to be focused, and be in character constantly and not drop out of character. And he used to drop in and out of character. So we'd do a scene and he'd be tired or he'd be hungry or something, and then he'd just do the scene. And I'd be like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm doing the scene. And I said, no, you're not. You're thinking about lunch. You're thinking about you going. And he'd go, yeah, well, I am hungry. I'll go, exactly. I can see that you're thinking about lunch, And so he was like, oh, fuck, she could see everything. So we did have a little bit of that, that sort of conflict, but only because it was my way of getting him. I mean, I actually started treating him like he was a teenager, and he would do something, and halfway through I'd go, cut, and he'd go, what? What? It's like a teenager. And I'd go, what are you doing? He goes, I don't know. I said, exactly. Why are you going all googly-eyed on me? And I goes, I'm not googly-eyed. And I go, you're googly-eyed. Because he's got these big eyes, right? So when his eyes are in, they're in. And when his eyes are out, they're out. And what you see is them always in. What I've got on my cutting room is a lot of them being out. But what was great was initially it was like that. And as we progressed towards the end, I was very proud of how he just went with it. He didn't cave in. He went with it. He rose to the challenge. And one of the last things we shot was the speech. And he did that in one take. Wow. Amazing.
Wow.
And the other cast, Hayley Atwell, you may know. She's been in quite a lot of things. I saw her recently in a big Hollywood movie where she plays the wife at the end, or the girlfriend.
What was that called? Avengers Endgame? Yeah,
yeah,
that's
she's
right.
in Avengers Endgame.
That's
That's
right,
it.
That small indie movie, Avengers Endgame.
She was in that, but she's a terrific British actress. And the dad, Gurinder Chadha, he was in Bend It Like Beckham as the groom, back then. He's a very old friend of mine. And he had just lost his dad. And so when I sent him the script, he called me 2 hours later and he said, I'm a mess. I can't stop crying every time I look at it. I haven't finished it, and I'm just crying reading the first few scenes. So he channeled a lot of his own dad into the role, which is why I think it has that sort of melancholy sort of feeling.
All right, we got time for one more. I think I saw all the way. Yeah, you've had your hand up for a while. All the way. Yes, sir. Right there. Sure. Yes. Oh, okay.
I have a very loud voice. Gurinder, have you seen Springsteen live in concert?
Yeah.
Aaron, have you?
I'm going to his tour next year. I'm making sure of it. I was saying to Saf and Amolak for a long time, the guys that we're playing, they need to take us, and they have this little bond between them where they'll meet up with their wives and kids, Like they started when they was like 17, 18 going to their shows together, and now they meet up with their wives and kids. They'll ditch their wives and kids and then go together just on their own. So yeah, we got to go with them.
I saw him in 1984 in Wembley in London, and I was quite young. And it was the first big concert I'd ever been to, and it just absolutely blew me away. And then I've seen him regularly. I saw him at Glastonbury in England, where he was on stage for like 4.5 hours. And I was like, Bruce, you got to get off stage now because my knees are buckling. I can't even stand anymore. And he's like giving it large and everything. And then I saw him on Broadway 3 times. So yeah, I've seen him a few times.
you made this with love as a fan as well, and
totally.
Yeah.
On the way here, I was coming from. Where we come from? LA.
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Sorry, Phoenix. It's a little bit. It's Wednesday. We must be in Phoenix. So we were coming from Phoenix, and I just was listening to music, and I put his new album on, and there's a song on there called "There Goes My Miracle." I don't know if anyone's heard it. It's an absolutely beautiful song. The album is very much like a Glenn Campbell album. It's very big and Americana, and that song is stunning, and the way Bruce sings it, is very emotional, and I started crying on the so I do feel very touched to have got close to him through his music. But more than that, if you just take everything away, it's just a man who sort of has struggled with the fact that his dad never sat him down and said, I'm proud of you, son, for what you've achieved. Because he never got that, until right at the end. And he struggled with that his whole life. He's talked about depression. He's in many ways, he's kind of broken, and he's melancholy in his songs, but he's still always looking for hope. And I find that terribly moving. And his new album is the same. And I think what he embodies for me is just that, what it means to be human. Human means that we struggle, but we also are always looking for hope and looking for happiness. And you can pick up any Bruce Springsteen album, and you'll hear that. He's extremely human. And I find that very moving.
what a beautiful note to end on. Round of applause.
Thank you. August 16th.
August 16th.
Please go. Please tell your friends.
Yes, you were born to run to the theater and see it again.
Yes.
So
Thank you.